Hi, this is Ed back again with another video from the Outer Light channel on the Steam blockchain from DTube and Steemit, as well as 3Speak, as we get into a very strange reflection in an astronaut's helmet, as well as a number of other anomalies. This one is less known in regarding this reflection, although researchers have pointed a number of these kinds of strange reflections out before. We're going to be going into this and taking a look at this less known example, as well as talking about an older example which I talked about a number of years ago, and regarding the European Space Agency's live stream there and the anomaly that's been captured in it. If you don't know, I have covered that before, but it's been a long time ago. But before I get into any of those, I do have another supportive video on Patreon and Subscribestar regarding a stranger symbol as we continue our investigation into the weirdness of iconography there. That's on Patreon and Subscribestar. If you're one of my supporters, you might want to check that one out. So just to be clear, I'm not saying you can't go to space or a real space program is taking place. How would I ever know? All it comes down to is the world we live in. And it's good to set a reminder here before we get into NASA, the European Space Agency, Russian footage as well as Chinese, because it's all over the map. I'm not particularly picking on any specific set of astronauts or cosmonauts here. It is all over the place. But it's important as a reminder. Why would they do anything like this? Well, if you believe in conspiracies, what about 9/11? What happened there? This is the world we live in. What about the JFK assassination? What happened there? And of course, we know that the heart of Christianity there, or at least alleged heart of Christianity at the Vatican, has a symbol of a snake in the Pope's audience hall, as I reported on 4 or 5 years ago. I can't remember now. And regarding that reptilian symbolism there of a snake in the heart of the Pope's audience hall, which of course is contrastive to Christianity, since the snake is synonymous with Satan. And that is literally seen as a sign of evil within the Christianic religious system. And remember, we're not talking about some kind of obscure, religious system or snake worship from the continent of Africa, the African continent. We're talking about some group that claims that, of course, that is what it is, yet they have a monument to it. So what I'm pointing out is regarding all this is we live in a strange world of cover-ups where princes are associated with child predators like Jeffrey Epstein, where presidents of the United States are associated with Jeffrey Epstein and what is said to be an alleged blackmail operation. This is the world we live in, the world of the illusion. Okay, we were supposed to have, the utmost respect for those people in positions of power like Prince Andrew or Bill Clinton, etc., and hail anything they're saying as truth. Well, there's no different architecture than that of the space agencies. If you don't know, the space agency, like NASA, was run by a former SS officer, Werner von Braun, and a bunch of Nazis, which are taken over by Project Paperclip. That's not a conspiracy, that's a fact. Okay, so it's important to point out the real world that they're telling you are the truth tellers are all just run by a bunch of corrupt individuals. Now, in regarding the space agency, I think it comes down to economical viability or not economically viable. When you have two systems where you can fake something and it costs $1 or 1 unit of resource, or you could create it and it'll take 1,000. So what do? Well, you fake it. That's my opinion. You take all the money they say is paying for it and use it for something else. So that is literally my narrative on it. And here we go into this particular photograph here. Now, to point this out before we go into the video itself, I've spent a long time, not just today, but over years, trying to track down the specific video, maybe 20 hours, trying to track down the specific video in which this comes from. The problem is there's so much video of space. So if someone knows, please put that in the description. I know it's a Russian cosmonaut, okay, etc. And there's thousands of hours of space footage of these astronauts moving around. But this particular one is quite interesting. Now, researchers have pointed a number of things out. First, here is the first screen before we get into the video, and you can see the person taking the photo there. What happens is when he pulls down the visor, so the pulls down the visor itself, you can see another person in the actual image. Let's take a look here. So here is the video itself, and there is the first camera angle. A link to this actual video by this researcher we posted in the description, so you can watch the entire thing by yourself. And when he pulls it down, there's a different person in the reflection. I don't know where the original video is, and that's the problem. With a lot of videos, or when you're talking about videos, it's always good to cite the original source material or an archive if possible, if it's the major thing within the video. Of course, I don't do that all the time, so I can't be the pot calling the kettle black here, but it's always great to have the original source. So here is what is reflected. So I think that looks like a scuba diver to me. That's my opinion. You might disagree, because I don't know any astronauts that are wearing black. Now, some people might state, because the reflections of the inside and the lack of light, that it looks black. But it doesn't even have the shape of an astronaut suit, okay, which is largely bulky. And of course, white is a reflective material, so you're not going to have super deep shadows everywhere. So as I said, that's the one taking the photo. Now I've got a replay or a loop here, so you can see it. You can see the individual there with a long cord attached to them. They seem to be waving. That looks like a specific type of diving suit used by the Navy, or a very expensive diving suit, something that would be used by a diver possibly welding an oil rig or something deep under the sea. Okay, it's a serious diving suit and a very expensive one. So that's just the camera rolling there. Of course, you can always rewind this footage and take a look at it yourself. As you can see there, it seems like a helmet, and here you have like an oxygen line or something, I would guess. And this helmet with it's like a black helmet with a light in the middle. Now, why do people go on about diving suits and regarding this footage? Because there's so many, and you probably are aware of this, there's so much of this NASA footage, specifically pointing to China's footage of their spacewalk, that has nothing but bubbles in it. It's just full of bubbles, and you can probably go out there and find that, although it's very hard to find that on YouTube, because YouTube has banned any kind of videos, deranked them, talking about NASA, which of course will happen to this one as well. So here is what I think is the type of suit being used. I'm not saying this is exact. The big rig helmet there, of course, that's painted black. And you can see this light coming in the middle, used by, at least in this article in 2015, a US kind of Navy suit. Of course, there's a long history of NASA taking their candidates right from the Naval Academy, for whatever that means. Long lists. Of course, NASA is a military organization, pretty much. A lot of the people they take are from the military, so it's not surprising. And of course, a lot of the work that NASA does in training is literally done in underwater tanks, which have a mock-up of the things that the astronauts will be working on. Now, I'm not saying they'd be filming it there. They're likely filming it in a specific location where the blue's taken out of the water. Okay, the blue, all the chlorine or whatever colorings in the water has been completely removed. And you have a crystal clear environment with specific water filters everywhere in order to take out any impurities, so it looks crystal clear. That's what I think is happening. Of course, here is the video and regarding the European Space Agency. Now, I just thought that was interesting, and of course the link will be posted in the description regarding the reflection in the helmet. It looks like a diving suit to me. Of course, I can't say 100%, but I can say that as someone that knows about at least composite work, that this is highly unusual. In fact, it goes beyond that. It proves, in my opinion, that the live streams are CGI, or a composite work of 3 different images. So here is an official European Space Agency video live stream, and this is from the channel Sebastian. I'll put a link to that in the description as well, so you can check it out on your own time. It's got 23 million views. Now, This channel specifically takes European Space Agency footage, cuts it up, and puts music on it. So you can see this is a highly ranked YouTube channel with 23 million views because they just publish and there's no conspiracies or anything like that. So let's have a look at the specific video here and see if you note anything strange, and I'll come back in a few seconds or so. Have you noticed what's strange about this live stream yet? That's right, you can see through the planet Earth. You can see directly through the planet Earth to the stars behind. That is impossible without being a complete and utter fabrication, okay? Directly, this is made up of two images. One is the nightscape, which is the lit lights, and that's supposed to be covered over the planet, which is underneath it. But in this case, they have made an error, or some kind of malfunction has happened. It is impossible to see through the planet, okay? That cannot happen. Okay, so that is particularly what's happening in that footage from the European Space Agency. They're showing live streams of things that don't exist. Now, that is the level we're at today. The main point and takeaway of that is that what credibility do they have? We're always supposed to trust people in power that everything they say is true. But we know throughout history that that is not the case. You can point to a million examples. So why does everyone believe it's real? Well, it's a powerful thing, belief. As I said the other day, or well, when I was on the supporter video yesterday, which I published on Subscribe Star and Patreon, I was saying one of the most oddest things to me about the Pope's audience hall is not actually that it's in the shape of a giant reptilian. One of the most strangest things to me is the fact that out of all the decades, because it's been there for 40 plus years, all those people that go in there cannot see that they're in a hall that's the shape of a giant snake. They cannot see it. All the tourists, all the people that go in there, are, to them, that is invisible. The reason why it's invisible is because the idea that they would be inside a hall with a giant snake, whereas the shape of a giant snake, is so far from what they think the Catholic Church is, that it doesn't even occur in their mind, and even in the slightest way. And this is what we're dealing with scientists, okay? All these scientists that praise NASA, it's so far away from their thought patterning that they can't see it. Even though these things are right in front of everybody, they cannot see it. Just like the people that go into the reptilian Vatican Hall cannot see it's a giant snake, when that is clear. And plus, I've gone on to the architecture. So here's another video. It's a classic from my channel back in 2015 or 16, I think, from my other channel, which was called Esoteric Detective. And here you have an astronaut rolling out a piece of famous footage, and you can see as they go out the door, what's happened with the composite shot is they faded the astronaut too soon. He's not supposed to fade out. So when you've got two pieces of video and they're lined up above each other, they've put a crossfade there with the astronaut. They shouldn't have done that, okay? They put a crossfade. So that is what's interesting about that particular footage. Again, another example, because we've got footage of the planet Earth that has replications that we're supposed to believe on the blue marble pic. These are official pictures. When you have replications exactly, okay, of what are supposed to be chaotic objects, cloud formations, chaos as in too far beyond the ability for predictive measurement. You can't say that's going to be the formation, a day or 3 days later. Now, if you had the computer, a hypercomputer built by aliens, you could do that, but it's beyond our function, at least what we think now. Complete replications of cloud patterns continually all over the official NASA blue marble photograph, and you can see them clearly there. Let's have a look at something else here. So this is saying that they're talking about a Reddit conspiracy the other day and regarding this piece of astronaut footage. when they're saying that he's on wires. The reason why is this person on the right, pulls an invisible cord down here to right the astronaut. Now, that's what it looks like to me. Of course, you'll have naysayers. This actual person here, if you look at the beginning of the footage, puts their hand up in order to steady a cord above. So how is it possible to make someone seem like they're floating in 0G? Well, you can use wires. And I'm not saying they use wires all the time. Maybe they use equivalent to the vomit comet, but it would be a variety. It's a consolidation of different methodologies depending on what you want to do. That is likely would be going on. So you have all these anomalies again with these gaps in the space station, all types of things like that. The fact that they're playing with water and catch up and things like that all the time. In an environment like this that could get into the air filtration systems, you would think that they wouldn't be playing with all these liquids and throwing them around all the time. And it's not just water, it's like ketchup, it's like mustard, it's doing silly, ridiculous things all the time. When are they actually doing any scientific experiments? It's like their entire drive is, hey, we have to educate the public. On what exactly? What is it even up there for? What do we learn from it? These are serious questions. What do we learn directly from the International Space Station? Is it worth $1 trillion? Now here's a classic picture here. This isn't regarding an actual ball of water, which I was just talking about before, or at least the fluids that they're throwing around. So the odd thing about this particular CGI, well, I think is a CGI ball there, is the reflection does not change. Okay, so this is supposed to be a reflection of her, yet her movement in relation to this ball of liquid that's reflecting her doesn't shift. So you would think that that would shift. Absolutely that would shift. In fact, if you're an optical physicist, you could probably show such. Let's have a look at it again. If you were studying the optics of this, why wouldn't the actual image of the actual woman shift? Now that is very suspicious to me, okay, that it stays completely stationary, as does the complete background in the image. It's not just her. You can see the circular pattern there and the other pattern as well. They just stay like they were put into a program and it was left there while this object was moving. To get it right, of course, that object would have to twist and restructure itself in direct combination and sequence in an equilibrium to the light and reflection of the individual. Okay, so that's another classic, although that one might be hard to explain. I'd probably have to go to university for 10 years in order to prove it, but that is just my assumption. Here's another classic, and I've covered this. This is official NASA video. Official NASA video, and in fact it's unbelievable. Okay, here's citation from the NASA webpage here. A NASA camera aboard the Deep Space Climate Observatory satellite captured a unique view of the moon as it moved in front of a sunlit side of the Earth. So we're supposed to believe that the moon only is facing one direction the whole entire time. It's supposed to be on an orbit that's going around like that. The moon doesn't go straight across like that. That's absolutely ridiculous, okay? The moon, although its face is always facing the same way, is supposed to go around the planet like this. That's not all, though. Let's have a look at the video, and you've already covered this on The Outer Light maybe a year or 2 years ago. Look at the green screen around it. This is supposed to be video from the Space Observatory. It's supposed to be real. We're supposed to believe this. And look at the green glow around the side. Now that is clear evidence, in my opinion, of a green screen. You have two images. Okay, you have a composite image which they have mapped into here, well, they've put on top basically, and then pulled out the green screen work, and you have just this strange anomalous object rolling past. Look at it, and we're supposed to believe that. That is supposed to be what we're supposed to believe, that that is an actual real image with a big massive green thing around it. Of course, I have gone on about this before, and I've also talked about this, which was a picture that they claimed was from Mars. Okay, I talked about this years ago. Now, it was supposed to be taken by the Mars rover. Okay, I think it was the Curiosity rover. I can't remember. It's been so many years. But the point is, in the video, I went and got the schematics for the rover, and I proved that this particular object here, which looks like a kickstand off a motorcycle, is nowhere near on the actual rover, so it shouldn't be in the photograph. Well, then what happened is they removed it from the Mars notebook or whatever it was called, removed the image completely and deleted it. In fact, the site went down. Now, I'm not saying that was because of me, because other researchers were talking about it, so it was like this, it was highlighted and then they just removed it completely. This to me is a kickstand off a motorcycle, okay, and that is just somewhere on Earth. In fact, you could probably guess to the location if you wanted to look into it, but who knows? Basically, it's from the planet Earth, in my opinion. Of course, you have all these strange photographs of Earth that don't look really anything alike. Okay, again, they just look like they're completely changing all the time. Now, that isn't proof in itself, but it is unusual and worth noting, of course. And then you have the replication of the cloud patterns in a lot of these. This photograph, I think, is here from 2002 photograph. I'm not sure the exact one. And all these anomalies on the space station. Now, this isn't proof of anything, really. It could just be just a beat-up location. But look at all these gaps. Okay, in the space station. Look how this door is all just bent, like it's made out of some cheap metal. Look at this, the side of the space station here. Of course, these are all just very unusual. Now, this is the Russian part of the space station, so maybe that's just it. But it just seems so kind of like worn out, like it's underwater. Okay, the kind of wear that you'd see from that perhaps, but again, this isn't proof of anything. It's just unusual that is supposed to be the side of the space station. Of course, it's got tape over it which has been pulled off. The thing that's always been unusual to me is the air filtration on the actual space station itself. Now, the ISS claims that they get their air supply from electrolysis. Maybe that's the case. Now, if you think of a diver having to go underwater, and he's got these huge tanks on his back. How much oxygen does that supply the diver? What? I'm not a diver, so I don't know. What, 40 minutes, half an hour, or whatever. Maybe longer, depending on how much oxygen they have. You have a team of astronauts in outer space there 24/7. So is that really the system that's supplying them all this air to do all these crazy things all the time? Where's the heating systems on the actual space station? Think about it. That's supposed to be extremely cold. Now, what I'm saying is there's huge, vast array of machinery required to keep them alive. Is that flowing up daily? You would need trains in order to deliver that, just in my opinion. And how do they filter the air up there? Now, on a nuclear submarine, you have whole teams of people that work 24/7 just to make sure the pipes don't break, just to make sure that things don't break and things are working. You would need teams of engineers working 24/7 to make sure the parts in outer space, we have micrometeorites, all these weird things happening all the time. It's more hostile than it is under the ocean, because any moment a micrometeor could go right through it and blow cut a hole in it. But again, we're supposed to believe all this kinds of stuff. I'm not saying that you can't go to space. All I'm saying is perhaps space is more hostile than we know, and much more harder in order to occupy. Now, obviously people say you can see the International Space Station with a telescope. That is true. You can see it fly past the Earth. How do you know that isn't just an empty shell? That's the question. Now, I don't know, of course, what is happening. Maybe everything's stranger than we realize. Maybe there's lunar waves. It's captured in a number of different videos. And things like that, and people talking about that. It's a weird world, but I do know that there's a lot of oddities happening, and it's not just conspiracy theorists talking about it. It has hit the mainstream media, including the chalk line in front of China's moon rover. People talking about, why is that on the moon? Okay, first of all, this chalk line in front of the moon rover is seen here. The moon, okay, is supposed to be this powdery mixture that you can put footprints in. Neil Armstrong can put his footprint in. Supposed to be that, allegedly. Okay, because there's no proof of that whatsoever. In fact, in order to create footprints in something, there has to be usually moisture. That is to maintain the footprint. Otherwise, you're trying to put a footprint in the sand. Has anyone ever tried to put a footprint in dry sand down by the beach? Okay, no, it needs moisture in order to connect the footprint. But regardless of that fact, whether that's true or not, or just my imagination, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, the fact is, if it's a powdery mixture on the moon, then how are you supposed to draw chalk lines on it? Okay, very unusual, really. So are they chalk lines, or is it just an anomaly, a high artificial-like structure, that, or artificial-like anomaly we see on the moon there in the China footage? Here's China talking about the moon landings just for fun. Look at the flag waving there. I'll give it a minute. It's quite hilarious. By the way, that's supposed to be outer space. Well, I could play more of that, but I just wanted to leave that there, because if you want to see the state of the world today, okay, I want to tell you something about that footage. I did have a piece of footage with all the bubbles in it. There are millions of bubbles, okay, well, not millions, that's an exaggeration, but there are dozens and dozens of bubbles within the China spacewalk footage itself. The flag looks funny when they flap. It just looks like it's underwater. The point is if you search for that footage now on YouTube, it will never show up, or the videos that it'll show you are the most, they don't really report on it. It's very hard to understand what they're even talking about, and that's on purpose, I think. But they've really wiped out all of this whole entire arena of, footage of NASA, talking about NASA. Whether it's right or wrong in the grand scheme of things, it's all been removed off YouTube, okay, and off Google. So it's very hard to find it. If you Google for any of this stuff, you'll just be reported to some debunking website. And that's really where it is. If it's all false, if it's not true, why do they have to hide all the people's criticisms of it? Why don't they just let the truth speak for itself? Okay, why don't they have an astronaut or someone going through step by step all the questions in a rational world and just saying, hey, that's not a bubble, and I'll show you exactly why. Why don't they do that? They don't, of course. Anyway, I just thought I'd make that video on a number of things. Just some oddities in regarding NASA, since it's, well, not NASA, but it's all the space agencies, since it's been a while. In the meantime, of course, go out and decide for yourselves what to believe. And I do have that new supporter video on Patreon and Subscribestar as a reminder. And in the meantime, go and do your own research, decide for yourselves what to believe. Either way, it's fine with me, no matter what you believe. But in the meantime, make sure to stay safe, and I'll see you all later.